I still remember the exact moment everything shifted. It was a late summer evening in Manhattan, the kind where the glass windows of my apartment reflected the city lights like fireflies. I had just slipped off my heels, trading them for the cool glide of silk slippers across polished oak floors. My phone buzzed on the marble counter. Once, twice, 3 times, until I finally reached for it with a sigh. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in years. Mom. For a heartbeat, I just stared, my freshly manicured nails drumming against the glass. I hadn't spoken to her in so long that hearing her voice again felt almost surreal. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice trembled on the other end. Emily, can we talk? Just like that, I was pulled backward, not into the woman I had become, but into the girl I once was. The girl who came home from vacation to find that her parents had sold her $80,000 car, the car I worked for, cried for, dreamed about, all to buy my brother a boat. I leaned against the counter, my silk blouse clinging softly to my skin as I whispered into the phone, "Sure, Mom. Let's talk." But inside, my chest tightened, because this wasn't just a phone call. This was the beginning of reopening an old wound that had never quite healed. Back then, I was just 21, a college junior, juggling classes, waitressing, and a part-time internship in marketing. Every dollar I earned had a purpose, every sleepless night another step toward freedom. That car, a sleek, pearl-white Audi A5, wasn't just a vehicle, it was my escape. My proof to myself that I could build something on my own, even if no one believed in me. And no one believed in me. My parents, Robert and Linda, had always made it clear where their loyalty lay, with my brother, Jason. Jason was the golden child, the one who could flunk out of classes, blow through money, crash 2 cars in a single year, and still be praised for his big dreams. Meanwhile, I was the reliable one, the one expected to sacrifice, to compromise, to understand. I still remember unlocking the garage after my vacation, suitcase dragging against the cement floor. The garage was empty. For a moment, I thought I was in the wrong house. My chest tightened. My palms went clammy. When I confronted my parents, they didn't even look guilty. Mom was stirring pasta sauce, humming softly, while Dad sat at the kitchen table with his newspaper. "Where's my car?" My voice cracked, but I held my ground. Dad barely looked up. "Oh, that. We sold it." The room spun. "You... what?" Jason strolled in right then, grinning ear to ear, tossing a boat catalog onto the counter. "Thanks to Mom and Dad, I'm finally getting my boat, Em. Can you believe it?" My blood ran cold. My car, my $80,000 car, traded for Jason's new toy. When I protested, Mom sighed as though I was the unreasonable one. "Sweetheart, don't be so selfish. Jason has been working so hard. He needs this. You'll get another car someday." I remember gripping the edge of the counter, knuckles white, tears burning my eyes. My throat ached with all the words I couldn't say. That night, I sat on my bed, staring at the one object that kept me from shattering completely. A small silver bracelet my grandmother had given me before she passed. "Don't ever let them tell you what you're worth, Emily," she had whispered. "You'll prove it to them in your own time." And in that moment, I decided. If my family saw me as second place, I would walk away. I packed my bags, slipped on my bracelet, and left the house without looking back. It hurt like hell. But I promised myself something that night. They would never steal from me again. The first weeks after leaving home were brutal. I moved into a tiny studio apartment on the Lower East Side, with walls so thin I could hear my neighbor's alarm clock buzzing every morning. The ceiling leaked when it rained, and the heater groaned like it was on its last breath. But it was mine, my space, my freedom. I sold what little jewelry I had, picked up extra shifts at the diner, and scraped by with cheap coffee and dollar slice pizza. Most nights, I fell asleep on my futon with textbooks spread across my chest, my grandmother's silver bracelet cool against my wrist, the only reminder that I wasn't as small as the world tried to make me feel. It was during one of those endless nights at the diner that I met her, Karen Mitchell. She was a marketing executive, always dressed in sharp navy suits, ordering her coffee black with a side of lemon pie. She noticed the way I studied in between tables and asked one evening, "You ever thought about doing more with that brain of yours?" Karen became my mentor. She pushed me, challenged me, and most importantly, she believed in me. Under her guidance, I landed my first real internship, then my first junior marketing role at a small agency downtown. The early years weren't glamorous. I worked 12-hour days, slept on buses, cried in bathroom stalls when clients dismissed me as too young or too inexperienced. I learned to toughen up, to sharpen my words and my instincts, to fight for the seat no one wanted to give me at the table. My first big win came unexpectedly. A local fashion startup gave me a shot at handling their social campaign. I poured everything into it. The sleepless nights, the hunger, the years of being underestimated. The campaign went viral. Sales tripled. Suddenly, people knew my name. From there, doors started opening. I took risks, freelancing, consulting, eventually launching my own agency at 26. I started small, renting a co-working desk, but soon built a client list that grew faster than I could have imagined. Money began flowing in. Real money. The kind that made me pause before checking my bank balance, just to be sure it was real. I upgraded my studio to a loft, then to a penthouse overlooking the skyline. I bought a car again, this time a Maserati, cash up front. Not because I needed it, but because it symbolized everything they had once taken from me. And through it all, I stayed silent. My family didn't know. On social media, I kept things modest. A photo of coffee here, a sunset there, maybe a quiet new chapter caption when I moved. Nothing that revealed the truth. Because success wasn't about showing them. It was about knowing for myself that I had built a life no one could steal. Still, late at night, I would catch myself wondering, if they knew the woman I'd become, what would they say? Would it be pride, or would it still be dismissal, the same way it had always been? The call from my mother that night wasn't just small talk. She and my father were in town, with Jason. They wanted to see me. Part of me wanted to hang up and vanish into the life I had built, the polished life they knew nothing about. But another part of me, the part that still carried the ache of that empty garage, said yes. So a week later, they walked into my world. My office sat on the 40th floor of a glass tower in Midtown, the kind of place where the city stretched beneath you like an endless sea of possibility. The reception desk gleamed, white marble streaked with gold. On the walls hung framed campaign posters from brands my agency had transformed, proof of the empire I had built. I stood near the floor-to-ceiling window as they entered. My silk blouse caught the afternoon sun, my heels sinking softly into the plush gray carpet. I watched their eyes widen as they took everything in. Mom's hand clutched her purse a little tighter. Dad's lips pressed into a thin line. Jason, arrogant, predictable Jason, tried to mask his surprise with a smirk, but I saw the flicker in his eyes. "This is yours?" Mom finally whispered. I turned, calm, collected. All of it. For a long silence, no one spoke. Just the sound of the city humming below us. Dad cleared his throat, voice gruff. "We thought you were struggling. You never said—" "Of course I didn't," I interrupted gently, walking toward them. "Because every time I achieved something, it wasn't enough for you. You didn't see me. You didn't want to. Jason scoffed, shifting in his tailored jacket. Come on, Em. It was just a car. You're still holding on to that? My pulse quickened, but I steadied my voice. It wasn't just a car. It was everything I worked for. It was proof I could stand on my own. And you took it from me to buy you a boat. Do you have any idea how that felt? For once, Jason had no comeback. His smirk faltered and he looked away. I let the silence stretch, savoring the weight of the moment. Then I gestured around us. The art, the awards, the sleek furniture, the quiet hum of success that filled the air. This, I said softly, is what happens when you decide not to let betrayal define you. This is what happens when you stop needing approval and build your own. Their faces told me everything: shock, shame, disbelief. Mom's eyes brimmed with tears she didn't dare let fall. Dad's jaw tightened, as if holding back words he couldn't form. Jason shifted uncomfortably, his confidence unraveling by the second. I sat behind my glass desk, folding my hands with deliberate calm. You came here expecting the old Emily, the girl who would swallow her pride, who would accept being second place. She doesn't exist anymore. The words hung heavy, final, undeniable. For the first time in my life, I watched them see me. Not as the daughter who could be overlooked, not as the sister who could be robbed of her dreams, but as the woman who had risen higher than they had ever imagined. And in that silence, I finally felt the power shift. I let them sit in the weight of that silence until Jason finally blurted, "So what now, Em? You're rich. We get it. Are you going to rub it in our faces forever?" I leaned back in my chair, the leather creaking softly. My reflection glimmered in the glass walls behind me, and for the first time, I didn't see the girl they had dismissed. I saw a woman who had built her own kingdom brick by brick. "No, Jason," I said evenly. "I'm not here to rub anything in, but I am here to set conditions. Because if you want me in your lives again, things have to change." Mom's eyes widened. "Conditions?" "Yes." My tone sharpened, but there was still warmth beneath it, like steel wrapped in velvet. "You don't get to walk back into my life expecting the same dynamics. You don't get to take and take without respect." I turned to Jason first. "You're 30 now. Still chasing shiny toys, still depending on Mom and Dad. That ends today. If you want any help from me, any support, financial or otherwise, you need to prove you can stand on your own. Get a job. Build something that isn't handed to you. Until then, don't ask me for a single dollar." His mouth opened, ready to protest, but I raised a hand. "No excuses. You had your boat. Now earn your own shore." Then I faced my parents. Dad shifted in his seat, arms crossed, while Mom twisted her wedding ring nervously. "You two taught me early on that Jason's dreams mattered more than mine. You dismissed me, belittled me, and when I succeeded, you barely noticed. If you want a relationship with me now, the condition is simple. You respect me. You treat me as an equal, not as the daughter who can endure everything quietly." Mom's lips trembled. "Emily, we never meant—" I cut her off gently. "Intentions don't erase impact. You didn't just sell a car. You sold my trust. And it's going to take more than apologies to earn it back." The room was silent again, but this time I felt no heaviness, only clarity. I leaned forward, resting my hands on the desk. "I care about you. That hasn't changed. But I will not bend myself back into the girl you once knew. If you want me in your lives, it will be on these terms: accountability, respect, growth. Otherwise—" I paused, letting the words settle. "Otherwise, we walk separate paths." Jason shifted uncomfortably, his bravado finally gone. Dad stared at the floor. Mom wiped at her eyes, nodding faintly. I could feel the shift, not just in the room, but in myself. For the first time, I wasn't begging for their approval. I was offering them a choice. Compassion? Yes, but never again submission. The weeks that followed were different. At first, I expected them to slip back into old habits. Jason with his arrogance, my parents with their blind favoritism. But something shifted after that meeting. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the walls they had built around their denial began to crack. Jason called me one afternoon, not to ask for money, not to gloat about some new toy, but to tell me he'd applied for a job at a marina. "It's not much," he muttered, almost embarrassed, "but it's a start." For Jason, that was monumental. My mother began writing me emails. Not long, not polished, but full of small admissions. "I see now how much we hurt you. I want to do better." She signed them, not just "Love, Mom," but with the words I had longed to hear as a child. "I'm proud of you." And my father, stoic, stubborn Robert, showed up at my office one Friday evening with takeout from my favorite Thai place. He didn't apologize outright, but he didn't have to. The gesture, awkward and hesitant, spoke volumes. Did it erase the past? Number. The betrayal still lived inside me, carved deep like an old scar. But scars aren't just reminders of pain, they're proof of survival. One evening, as I stood by the window of my apartment, the city glittering below, I traced the silver bracelet around my wrist. My grandmother's words echoed softly in my mind. "Don't ever let them tell you what you're worth, Emily." I smiled, because I finally understood. My worth had never been in a car, a boat, or even in my family's approval. My worth was in the woman I had become, strong, resilient, unshakable. And as I watched the skyline, I whispered the truth to myself. A final vow and a final release. They sold my car, but they could never buy my future.